Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another Tooele Happy Hour, starring Jared Anderson and David Weiss, where if Head Trauma had a podcast, it might sound like this.
You're getting real good at that.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Soon I'm going to get paid or something, right?
Anyhow.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have a very interesting guest. So our topic about the border last week it is now expanding. We're having a second podcast, and our guest today actually lives on the border. He has boots on the ground knowledge of what's going on. I'd like to introduce Tim Foley. Tim, can you introduce yourself to our guest, please?
Yep. Like I said, my name is Tim Foley. I live on the Arizona border, about 75 miles southwest of Tucson. I've been down here 13 years. I decided to come down. I was in construction, building high rises, running 150 men. And at that time, Obama was in, and he said, "Don't worry. They're only coming and doing jobs Americans wouldn't do. And don't worry, it's safe and secure." Well, '08 happened. I went from 85,000 a year to 12,000 a year overnight. And 75% of my guys that I was running couldn't speak English. They were all illegals. And so when the housing collapse happened, I lost everything and said, I got to go see if the second lie, which was don't worry, it's safe and secure. And I came down here and shook my head and said, you're kidding me. So I've been down here 13 years. I started an organization called the Arizona Border Recon, which is comprised of mostly military and law enforcement veterans. And we are a extra set of eyes and ears for Border Patrol, and also to let people know across the planet what's going on. I mean, 99% of my media is outside of the U.S. The U.S. media already knows what's happening, or so they think, and so they don't come down to talk to me.
Mm. So what is your background? Are you a previous military?
Yeah, I was 82nd Airborne when Ronald Reagan was president, and so not much happened then. But yeah, so by doing this with my, I'm 63 years old, and most of my guys are a little over half of my age. You know, they're in their late 30s now, and my number two has 5 combat tours, and another one of my guys has 5 combat tours. And by doing this in the past few years, you know, I've had 6 come to me and go, "Thank you. You saved my life by doing this." You know, it's given them a purpose. And what we do, not everybody can do it. It takes a certain mindset to be able to sit on a mountaintop for days on end in 110 plus degree heat, all the way down to 0 degrees in the pouring rain and the snow. So by them telling me that, what I actually have done recently is I started a veterans nonprofit organization, and that's called Arizona Veterans Retreat. We just purchased 10 acres of land. We're getting ready to do our first building, and I said, if we can help a few, why can't we help more? You know, everybody, we forgot what community is, and we forgot that we need to take care of each other. We can't depend upon the government.
Tim, how long did it take you to start a 501c3? Did you had to apply for like a tax exemption, and you had to ask permissions? Was that a struggle for you, or were they resistant to it?
Dude, I would rather be out in the mountains chasing bad guys than sitting around and doing government paperwork. What a nightmare. I mean, there's federal. Once you get their blessing, then you have to do state, then you have to do the banking, and you have to do, and believe me, admin, I hate it, but to do it, to make a difference, I just sat down, buckled down, and did it. I mean, but every year you have to file more and more paperwork with state, federal, bank, everybody. It's a pain in the butt, but it's for a good cause, and that's what I'm here for. I mean, call it fate, call it destiny. Every choice you make in life leads you down a road, and this is where I'm at. And by doing what I started doing, helping veterans, so I said, well, let's keep going. Let's do it. Even though I'm 63 years old, God only gives you as much as you can handle, and I guess he thinks I can handle a little more.
Yeah, keep on trucking, man. That's a fantastic achievement. I think the people that do that for us veterans, I think that's very kind of them, very charitable. It's a lot of time, it's a lot of money, it's a lot of handshaking and baby kissing, and it's a lot of work. People don't realize, these people that create these 501c3s. I mean, if they're not just trying to, like
make
money, the ones that are doing the work, they are putting a lot of work into it, and it costs them. It costs them significantly.
Well, and that's the difference between us and a lot of the vast majority of other veterans organizations, because to be a charity, you only have to give 13% of what you raise to what you say you're raising it for. The rest can go to everything and anything. And vast majority of these big veterans organizations are all making 6 figures a year. Whereas I tell people, this is not about me making money, and this is not about my quality of life. This is about their quality of life. Myself and all my board members and my grant writers are all doing this for free. We don't take any money. And that's how it should be. If you're trying to help, but don't become rich off the back of saying you're helping, and you are helping, but you're not helping as much as you could help.
It's kind of a crazy notion you bring up, charities helping out the namesake. I don't know if that would, I don't know how that'd go in this modern world.
Yeah, I've got one donor who's been backing us, and they contacted us and they're going, look, we give to 2 of the biggest, and we give them $75,000 a year. But we're looking for a veterans organization with low administrative costs. And I said, well, you can't get any lower than 0. I mean, it's I live on $800 a month. Well, I just got a cost of living increase on my Social Security, so I'm at about $1,000 a month. That's what I live on, is $1,000 a month.
You're so spoiled.
Well, that'll get you what? 15, 16 eggs.
Yeah. I live in a 44-year-old mobile home. My truck has 430,000 miles on it.
What kind of truck is it?
It's a Chevy Silverado.
All right, there you go, guys. Silverado runs forever.
But we've been conditioned as a society that you need the newest, latest, greatest, most, and consume, go into debt. And, people just, most people are sheep, and they believe it. They watch too much television.
That is definitely the current model, and it's free money for the banks,
Yep.
But walk us through, when you go out on patrol, walk us through what your day is like then, and let us know, what do you do when you encounter illegals coming across the border? What is your processes that you do? Do you guys have like an SOP, things like that?
Oh yeah, you can go to our website, ArizonaBorderRecon.org. Our rules of engagement and our standard operating procedures are there for everybody to see. we're not trying to hide and be, I mean, we've been called everything in the book, but if you go to the website, you'll see how transparent we are and what we do. But how works is this is all volunteer also, except for I've spent over 200,000 of my own money. I cashed out 2 pensions to buy all the gear and everything we need. But what happens is I go out, sometimes just me and my dog. I got a pit bull. He's my eyes and ears when I'm out there. Or I'll go out with 1 or 2 guys, and I have trail cams set up out there. And I'm a certified tracker, so I can read the story on the ground. I can tell where the recent activity is versus the old activity on the trails. And if I see good recent activity, I'll put cameras on those trails. We monitor those cameras for 4 or so weeks. And once a week, I'll drop in and pull the card out, put a new card in, come back and see what's on it. And if it is hitting as good as the sign on the ground says, then I'll put an email out to my guys and say, hey, this date to this date, we're going to be out there. Who can make it? And usually I'll get anywhere from 12 to 18 that comes out for 7 to 10 days at a time. And we break up. The biggest we'll do is 4-man teams, but we'll send 2-man teams up on the different mountaintops that have good visual of the trails, and they will alert us when a group is coming through, and they just sit there. And what happens is the group will come past them, and they'll give them about 5 minutes, then they'll drop in behind them, and then we'll push in front of them. And usually when they see you, it's called grenading. They just, like a frag grenade, they just go every which direction. But normally, to make faster time, they'll drop their packs. So we collect up all their packs so they don't have the logistics to keep pushing forward. Because when they cross the border, if they're going to do the hike to Tucson, they're looking at 5 to 7 days. But recently, well, for a little over a year now, 2 years now, God, time flies when you got a bozo running the show. As soon as Biden got in, he closed all the checkpoints. And so they would only have to come in so far, and they would get in vehicles and they just drive out. But we've been, in the past year, there's just so many vehicle chases and car crashes. And so DHS underneath the Cuban, Mallorca, has decided to open the checkpoints again to cut down on the amount of deaths in traffic accidents. So when Trump was in, we'd call Border Patrol, and they would come down and pick them up. But now with the clown in chief, we get right down on the line in less than a quarter of a mile from the line. And when we come across a group, we push them back into Mexico. And then we'll watch it. We have the guys up on the hilltops that watch them to see if they try to go a mile or so to the east or the west. And then we just move around with them. And we just turn ourselves into a human fence.
Hey, Tim, are they coming with, are they acting as mules and bringing people over to stay? Are they themselves want to stay? Are they trafficking drugs? Are they human trafficking, or a combination of all the above?
All the above. I just pulled some, and it's the first time I've ever seen it in 13 years on my cameras. But 2-3 weeks ago, I pulled a camera, and 2 o'clock in the morning, you got a coyote going by, followed by 8 little girls. And I mean, they were probably anywhere from 10 to 14 years old. Mm-hmm. And I've never, ever seen that before. I mean, I've seen dope loads coming through. I've seen bad guys coming through. I've seen terrorists coming through. I've seen just cartel with AK-47s coming through. I've seen rip crews, everything, but never have I seen 8 little girls being brought in by one coyote.
Were they tied or were they?
No, they're just, they don't know where they're going, so they follow them.
Mhm.
I mean, you got to come down to see this area. It is so vast, so huge, the terrain is some of the most brutal terrain around. I mean, my guys with tours from Afghanistan goes, holy cow, I'm back in Afghanistan. It's just straight up and down, mountain after mountain after mountain after mountain for days. And so like I said, it's a different world down here. And this is not like Texas, where everybody's coming over with their iPhones and their Sunday best and just walking up to Border Patrol. This here, everybody's in camouflage. They're wearing carpet shoes. They have camouflage backpacks. These are people who don't want to be caught. Since Biden's been in, Border Patrol estimates are 1.2 million gotaways. Those are ones that they've seen on camera or helicopter or their ground sensors. And that's their estimate. And I would imagine that that's low, because now that's about averaging about 75 to 90,000 a month in gotaways.
Now, I have a particular really good friend of mine who he's about 2 years into his Border Patrol tour. And I asked him, have you ever heard of this guy, Tim Foley? And he responded, I have never heard of him, but I appreciate what he and his men are doing. The article is right. We don't have enough manpower or resources for the volume we are facing. For our AOR has the most getaways in the U.S., and it isn't for lack of effort. You can only do so much and be so many places. So, our Border Patrol, they are desperate for manpower.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the line agents love us. It's the ones that are sitting behind the desk up high who hate us, because we pull their covers. We expose, See, the higher-ups have a catchphrase. Arrests are up, it's working. Arrests are down, it's working. So no matter which way you go, hey, it's working. But it's not.
They need to write up their enlisted performance reports somehow and make themselves look good in all government agencies, especially the higher up the chain you go. No matter what, you have to make yourself look good in order to be promotable. And that is part of our system in the government.
Yeah, they're just trying to climb that GS ladder before they retire to collect a fatter paycheck. But if they actually pounded the ground out here, they would see it's a freaking nightmare. I mean, I'm 8 miles from the border, but where we go, it takes me an hour and a half to get down there because of the roads. And then once we get to that point, then it's all on foot. Where we go, Border Patrol doesn't even go anymore. It's too dangerous for them, because they're a union, and the union makes their workplace safety rules.
So when you say it's too dangerous, are you talking about, are they using artillery? Are they using missiles? Are they using just snipers?
Well, when we go out there, there's 2 factions separated by about 3/4 of a mile. They're both posted up on hilltops, just on the other side. I've been watching these 2 factions since October of 21. And we'll sit up there and watch them do little skirmishes. I mean, they're running belt-fed RPKs. They're running 50 cal rifles. They got some firepower over there, and so they don't want Border Patrol caught in the middle of it. So they tell them just stay away, which makes it actually easier for us, because according to government estimates, 25 to 30% of Border Patrol's on the take. So who do you talk to?
Well, they're on the take because of the price of ammo. That's all.
You know how much? You know how much they get paid?
A border patrol?
Yeah.
They make
They're
GS-12
probably
eventually.
90 to 120,000 a year, are they not?
Oh, I mean from the cartel,
Oh, I
Oh,
couldn't even imagine.
I
15,000 a month.
hmm,
Hey
15,000 a
Tim, you
month.
know, maybe a good story. When Tim came out here a couple of years ago for the Weekend Act event, and we did security for him and General Flynn and stuff. Tim shared a great story with me. I think it would be good for your listeners. Remember the story you shared with me about how you went to Washington and shared all the data and information, and they took that and created a movie and stuff. I think that'd be great to hear if Dave and these guys want to hear this stuff. I think it's great showing a good foundation on what happened and how it started.
Do you want to hear
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
it? Okay. Well, basically, it came off my trail cameras. And the hard part about trail cameras is they're motion activated. And so when sometimes I'll get 630-second videos of the wind patterns of southern Arizona. And so I had two cameras in the same location, separated by about 50 feet, one in a wash and one by a fence, because I knew they came over this fence. Well, it wasn't much of a fence. It was probably 4 foot high. That was our border. And I started going through these videos. I was just getting ready to get rid of it and say, screw it, it's wind. And I came across a set of scouts going by the camera. So I said, okay, there's something happening. And in that area, there's only one scout mountain in the US that they use from that location. I kept watching that one camera, the videos, and in a 2.5 day time period, I saw 4 sets of scouts going by the camera. And I said, well, something's up, because you don't need that many guys on one hilltop. So I started going through the other camera. Between the two cameras, there was 1,200 videos. So I got to a point where in the second camera, I saw 6 armed cartel come in on horseback, and they were escorting a guy. And they were all gathered around him. He was wearing a tracksuit, had tennis shoes on. And I said, there's your guy. He's a high value target. And he was a Muslim. You could tell by the way his beard was shaped and how clean it was and everything else. And so they put 4 sets of scouts in front so that they could get him through past all the border patrol. So when I saw this, I tried to give it to the Tucson station up here, and they're going, well, you know, if it's down there, it doesn't matter. And I said, look, if it's down there, he's already in, so it should matter. And they didn't want it, so I called a contact of mine and said, I got some video somebody has to see. And he lives in Phoenix, which from here is about a 3.5 hour drive. He goes, I'm going to DC tomorrow. And this guy, I call the introductor because he knows people. He knows everybody. I mean, he was instrumental in when Biden pulled out of Afghanistan and they sent all the former spec ops went in to help get people out. He was instrumental in setting that up. But so I put it all on a thumb drive, drove 3.5 hours to Phoenix, gave it to him. He took it to DC. He gave it to the DOD, and he gave it to DHS. And 6 weeks later, he called me up. He said, what are you doing? I said, oh, not much. And he goes, well, want to go to DC? I said, sure. So we went to DC, and we went to the Pentagon. And I had lunch at the time with who at the time was the Deputy Secretary of Defense in charge of counterinsurgency and counterterrorism. And he said that was excellent intel. He said we did facial recognition. The guy in the tracksuit was a Syrian on a terror watch list. We picked him up 2 weeks ago in DC. He said 3 of the armed cartel were high up in the cartel. They were plaza bosses. And he says, you know, we kind of know what's going on the border, but your intel's a lot better than ours. And I was going, wow, that's quite a thing to say. But we have a documentary out there done in our infancy. I think it's still on Amazon. It's called Cartel Land, and it's about two different groups, one on each side of the border, going up against the same people. It's won all kinds of awards around the world.
And these two cartels are at war with each other, correct?
The ones by us, right now. They've been in there for 2 years now.
Yeah, it's about. I've been looking into this. You got the Jalisco New Generation.
Jalisco New Generation.
Yeah.
CJNG.
Yeah, they're the brutal ones. They make the
ones
Zetas
we have
look
down
wimpy.
here are basically they're both Sinaloa.
Yeah.
But half are aligned with El Chapito, which is Chapo's kids, and the other half are aligned with El Mayo, which is his lieutenant. And they're fighting for control of the whole cartel.
Well, yeah, once El Chapo got taken out,
creates a power vacuum.
The Sinaloa kind of went crazy. So this Jalisco New Generation.
Jalisco.
However you say it, they're Mexican special forces. They're trained by our.
That was the Zetas.
Force. No, the Zetas were trained by our Rangers. They're the next level up.
Well, the CJNG is the most trained, most armed, most dedicated. I mean, see, what we're seeing is they're pushing into Arizona right now.
Yeah.
They're on the eastern side of Arizona. And while these two from the same cartel keep banging heads with each other, in the back door is going to come in the heavy hitters. Well, the heavy hitters come in here, all things are going to change.
What's going to happen when they make a couple of when they have a street fight or a war that's on this side of the border that happens to catch some U.S. civilians in line, say 10 of them, we catch them on camera. What's going to happen then? Are we still going to have good relations with Mexico? Well, never mind. Biden's in charge. Never mind. That was a bad question.
See,
he'll probably mail them the awards.
See, it's already happening, but the media doesn't report it. I mean, it's been going on for years. I mean, there's Brian Terry, Border Patrol agent that I met 2 months before he was killed. And I met him over just east of Nogales. And
that's the guy from up here in Ogden.
Huh?
That's the guy from Ogden, isn't it? Ogden, Utah.
No, that's Chris. Well, there's been 3 Border Patrol agents in the past 10 years that have been killed by cartel in the United States. And, a couple of years ago, about 40 miles north of the border, they found a headless body. His hands and his head were gone. And the media kept it quiet, and I made my contacts. I says, and they never reported it like that. They just said they found a body on a dirt road. And I said, he's missing his hands and his head, isn't he? And they're going, how do you know? I said, I saw the guys that did it at the store where I lived, heading back into Mexico. And they had to bring the head back as proof.
You saw them in the store, buying a Red Bull or something? Or
Yeah. Huh? Yep. There was 4 of them. One stayed with the vehicle the whole time. The other 3 got out. They started looking around. 1 went in the door. 2 kept looking. Then 1 went in the store, stood by the door, while the other 2 got their cervezas and shit and came back out. I've seen van loads of guns going through the fence. You'd be amazed at what I see down here. Goes on day after day after day. What was it? 2 weeks ago? February 9th? February 9th. Border Patrol helicopters flying real low and long time outside my house, just about, mile away. And I was going, all right, there's a group in the hills. Don't know, because Border Patrol's so busy, I'm going to shoot over there and lend a hand. So I go out, strap my 9 on, jump in my truck, and I start going out my driveway. And this Toyota Tundra 4-door, 4-wheel drive come pulling in my driveway, and he almost hit me. And I stopped and looked at him. And the guy's looking over and going, he couldn't speak English. And he's going like this, circular motion, like, I need to turn around. I was going, oh, yeah. He was wearing a red flannel shirt. But I looked, and you could see the camouflage underneath his red flannel shirt. The guy sitting next to him had camo on. There was a tarp in the back. It was rolling around. I go, hey, turn around. So I went up to my gate, threw it in park, turned it off, jumped out, grabbed my pistol, and started screaming, get on the fucking ground. Oops, sorry, don't like to swear.
No, you're fine.
And that's when the
we're in Utah, you're good.
Huh?
We're in Utah, you're good.
Oh, okay. But there's 13 in the truck, and they just scattered. And we got 11 out of the 13. And that was 2 weeks ago at my house.
So what were they carrying in the truck?
These were just guys who didn't want to get caught. I'm sure vast majority of them had records. That's why they were coming through this way. Mm. And I asked Border Patrol if I could keep the truck, and they go, nah, you can't. It's a beautiful Tundra 4-wheel drive.
Yeah, those are good trucks.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, and that's actually a serious question that I have in my mind. Is like, all right, if you're out in patrol as a civilian group, and you end up coming across items, do you have to turn them in, or do you consider them lost and found, or what is?
Well, it's like if they're just packing food and stuff, they get some good food. We'll divvy it up amongst us. I got what we do. Also, they have real nice wool blankets, and I know a veterans organization that takes all the wool blankets and gives it to homeless veterans, and so we collect the blankets. I could open up a camouflage backpack store. I got so many of those things. But
so what Dave's saying is, if you do that and they all scatter and they drop their rucksacks or whatever they're doing, do you have to turn that into Border Patrol, or do you just kind of hypothetically put it in the shed?
Well, it depends on where we're at. If we're all the way down at the line, we push them back in, and they'll leave their mochilos, as they're called, and then we'll just confiscate them, go through them. But if we're anywhere else and Border Patrol's around, we go, here, take their crap with them. Yeah. But I tell my guys, make sure you're wearing gloves now, because when I first started, a Mexican coming across was paying $2,000. Mexicans are now paying $8,000 to $10,000, and it goes up from there. They just caught a group of Chinese, and they were paying almost $100,000 a pop.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw the Chinese come over,
and so there's a lot of money involved in it, I mean, and so it all depends on circumstances. And if you can't pay that $10,000 or $8,000 or whatever it is, they might tell you, okay, here, you get to carry this kilo across. So my guys in the beginning, when they were just trafficking pot, we looked through them, no problem. But now with the fentanyl and all this other crap out there, you better make sure you're wearing gloves. I mean, we carry Narcan with us now. I mean,
yeah, your story went a little deeper, and this rolls into this and how they pay. Was that they turned what you had found on your cams and you went to DC into a movie?
Yeah.
So that's interesting. And the other thing is, in the movie and in real life, sometimes they couldn't pay, and they end up having to work in the U.S. Pay off their debt, right? That's another big problem here. That's where sex trafficking comes in quite heavily and stuff like that.
Well, we got a group, and the only other time we'll hold them way down there, because the last time we did it, we held on to them for a little over 5 hours before Border Patrol could get to us. But there were 2 females in the group and they were sisters, 19 and 21 years old, both from Mexico. And we asked them, how much did you pay to come across? And they go, well, we didn't pay anything.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, so where were you going? He goes, oh, they didn't tell us where we were going. And it's like, you are so lucky that we stopped this group because you were going off into the sex trade.
Yeah, wow.
And they finally realized it, and they were thanking us. Thank you. I mean,
You should be thanked, Tim. That's an incredible save just on its own.
It's the little girls that really pissed me off. I wish I was out there for that one. I mean, that's where you would administer what they call desert justice.
Yeah, we spoke about that last week, the 3 S's, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. I've got a question.
Sure.
So in your area, I've heard that along the Texas border, they're not getting many Mexicans crossing. They're getting mostly Hondurans and other nationalities. Along your border, are you seeing that where the majority of them are?
Like I say, where we're at, we are getting people who don't want to get caught because it's so the terrain is so brutal, and it's not flatlands like Texas or Yuma. They're getting Russians and Ukrainians that are bailing out so they don't have to go to war. Mm-hmm. I mean, everybody and their brother's coming right now. I mean, if you're broke and you're living in Africa, how did you pay for a plane ticket to get to Mexico and then pay to cross? It's somebody's paying for all this. Somebody's doing this on purpose. If you look at what's happening across the planet right now, it's the largest mass migration in the history of man. And if you look at it, they're only going to white European Christian nations. And if you look at it even closer, they're only going to NATO nations.
So
Australia,
we built something good and people want it is really what's going on.
We built something good and somebody wants to destroy it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you look what happened to England, right, Jared? England a few years back, it got flooded with the Muslims went over to England, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Massive amounts.
Same with France. All of those places
France,
are.
Sweden,
all of Western Europe is being invaded.
Germany. Yeah. I mean, you've got what, 3 holdouts over there. You've got Poland, Hungary, and Belarus. Yep. And I think those are the only ones that have been holdouts on this.
Yep. Oh, I love Obergon from Hungary.
I love watching his interviews. If he could, with a straight face, call that last time he interviewed with that chick from, I think she's from Germany, he all but called her a dumbass. That was beautiful.
Oh yeah, well, he went in front of the European Union and says, "Screw you, we're not allowing freaking immigrants. It's going to destroy our sovereignty and our culture."
He essentially said, "My country doesn't want this, and I represent them."
Yep. And that's the sad thing about most politicians is they'll tell you one thing, then turn around and do the exact opposite.
It's kind of a crazy notion, a politician representing the people, but
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, dictatorship's got a dictator.
Yeah.
Hey Tim, how many groups do you think there are of private individuals that go around doing this kind of community service on the border?
Not many. Maybe one other.
Yeah.
I mean, you'll get people that come down, oh yeah, you're going to go down. And then when they get down there, we had my contacts, they'll call me and go, hey, what do you know about this militia? And it's like, I don't know anything. And I wouldn't name my militia that if I was going to do it anyway. I mean, that's right there is a bad sign with calling yourself that. And I don't really want to say the name of it because anyway, but they'll tell me.
Come on, Tim, spit it out. Let's go.
Well, we don't.
They were called the Reaper Militia.
Reefer Militia?
Yeah. And they were coming down, and my contacts told me this is when they're going to be there. I said, "Okie dokie, you just know that me and my boys will not be out in the mountains during that time."
Yeah.
And so they got down here. They're going to be here for like 2 weeks. They ended up being here for 3 days because they didn't know what the fuck they were looking at or where to go. They were expecting them to come walking into their camp or something, but one of them was arrested for firing at a law enforcement agent because he heard twigs snapping in the fucking brush, and so they arrested him and told the rest of them, "You got less than 24 hours to get out of the state." And so once they told us they left, we went out, and my guys found where they had stayed, and they had left 26 cases of water because they didn't want to take it home. And it's like, wait a second, you came down here to protect the border, but you just left 26 cases of water to help them get further in.
Yeah, the most important thing they carry with them across the Arizona desert, you left it for them.
Yep. Well, they don't have to carry it anymore. I mean, we've got liberals down here, the humanitarians. I've got over 200 water drops GPS'd, put out by open border advocates that are suffering from white guilt.
Oh my gosh. Have you seen any Black Lives Matter flags through the desert yet?
No. Yeah.
Just checking.
The closest thing was the Buffalo Soldiers cemetery. But no, I got over 200 water drops GPS'd, and what we do is we monitor those because, like I said, it's so vast out here. How do you know where to put the water? Why did you put it here, but you didn't put it there? And then we're finding on the jugs that there's a 4-digit number written on the jugs corresponding to where they're at. So whoever's coming over has maps, and the water drops are waypoints. So they can look on their map and go, okay, here's 5260. We're right here. And then they even have subsets of those trails. If they don't feel that trail is safe, there's a splinter off of it, and it'll say 5260A or 5260B, because the further in you go, say if I'm down at the line in my area, there's about half a dozen good spots to come across. But every mile you go in, that half a dozen just multiplied by 4 to 6 times of different routes you can go. So the further away you get, the spider web just gets bigger and bigger and bigger and harder and harder and harder to catch them. And so so we monitor the water drops because they're letting us know where they're coming through, and we monitor them to see how often it's being refilled, how many gallons they're putting out. Are they putting food out with it? And sometimes the food buckets, sometimes it's a gold mine. I mean, you're out there for 7 days, you come across one, you open up the bucket, and there's a bag of Cheetos in there. It's like, yay, party time.
How about, go ahead, Jared.
I wonder, it's a strange thing where you would think under normal circumstances, a nation who proposed to maintain its border and have rules of law would want to maintain it, but our nation's given it up, which makes it so that, these people who want to support the poor immigrants coming across the border will support them. I mean, we won't do any of the steps to maybe aid the nation down there and bolster the nation so that maybe people wouldn't want to try to escape it so bad. But
well, and then you got to look at it also is, I mean, they want to help, but they don't want them in their house.
Oh God, no.
Mm-hmm.
And when you get this mass immigration, who are the first persons to leave? The educated, the problem solvers, the critical thinkers.
Yep.
And once they leave, then the only ones left are the ones in power that are greedy and corrupt, and they keep tromping on everything. And then the next level of education leaves, then the next level, then the next level. And so next you're left with nothing but uneducated peasants.
Mm.
And so it's a very complex issue with no easy solution.
Hey, Tim, I got a question. I've got to jump off here in a minute, but I got a question. Have you guys gone to civilian drones? Do you monetize the value of drones from your standpoint with your team at all?
Yeah, I just had a drone company come out a couple months ago and said they were going to help us out. And I said, well, seeing is believing. I've heard it all before in the freaking 13 years. We can do this for you. He goes, no, so a month later, he called me up. He goes, hey, I'm going to send you a picture. So, all right. So he sent me a picture and I go, what the hell's that? He goes, this is the drone I got you. It's a $30,000 drone. It has a thermal camera on it. And it also has a camera that can zoom up to a mile.
Wow.
And yeah, he brought it and trained me up on it for a week and spent a week of his time and donated a $30,000 drone. We'll use them, but not very often. We will use them after we have a group that comes in. And then if they scatter, then we can go up and start looking for them. But we don't use it as recon because it alerts everybody to, hey, somebody's over there flying a drone. I mean, we'll use it to spy on the two warring factions because they're about a quarter mile on the other side. So if we stay a quarter mile on this side and send it up, they can't hear it, but we can zoom in and see everything they're doing.
Well, it'd be a hell of an action movie you'd make out of that.
Well, I could probably make a killer on bloopers.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think, well, as of the last month, I think you ought to brush up on balloons.
Balloons, yeah. my thing was I was going to go over to.
Honestly, if you want the U.S. government to pay attention down there, I mean, they seem to respond to balloons now.
Yeah. Did you see the one they shut down a hobby club's $12 balloon
yeah.
with a $400,000?
The Illinois Penny Whistle Hobby Club or something.
Yeah, yeah. It was their radio repeater that they threw up in the air. $400,000 to shoot down a $12 balloon. Woo!
Yep. It's
Makes a
insane.
lot of sense.
But I'm not a fan of the government under any circumstance, so
nope.
It's not surprising.
Not here either.
Yeah. Yeah, but I don't know. I'm wondering. So back to the nationalities you're seeing coming through there. What are you seeing most of?
Everybody from mostly the Americas in this area.
Really?
Hondurans, Guatemalans, El Salvadorians, Mexicans. That's the vast majority. I mean, we get a lot of gangbangers, MS-13.
Yeah. Now those are coming from the Honduras, correct?
El Salvador, Honduras. Yeah.
Okay.
It was started in actually it was started in LA, and to protect themselves from the Mexican, the El Salvadorians got together to protect themselves from the Mexican immigrants. And then the U.S. government, in their infinite wisdom, started shipping them all home. And so they started recruiting more. And they're now the world's largest gang. There's 100,000 MS-13.
And they're considered one of the most violent.
Oh, yeah. El Salvador just opened up a brand new prison down there. And I think it's, what did they say they were going to house in that thing? 60,000 MS-13.
Well, you'll be happy to hear that President Bukele is doing a fantastic job of purging El Salvador of MS-13 to the point where other countries around El Salvador are now fleeing to El Salvador instead of coming to America.
It used to be one of the most violent countries down there. Now it's one of the safest.
Yeah, the only downside is his purging of them drives them up here.
Well, that's if they can get away, yeah. But they've been up here since the war on drugs during Reagan started.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That was Nancy Reagan started that one. The war on drugs. How's that going? Yeah, it's
a big success, I'd say.
Yep, just like the war on terror.
Yeah.
You know, when the government puts that catchphrase on something, the war on drugs, the war on terror.
Well, how about the war on poverty from the 60s?
Yeah.
You know,
that one's working because there's more people in poverty.
I'll tell you, the government, no one's better at throwing L's up on the board.
Oh, yeah. Well, when they do that, it's just, there's no objective, there's no goal, there's no end game. It's just, let's throw as much money at it as we can to make our friends as rich as possible for as long as possible.
Now, there's the thing. If the government initiates to fight something, all the incentives they have is to lose.
Yeah.
Because, you know, like, let's say everyone out at the Army depot started working safely. That would be a negative for David. Because David is a safety guy.
Mm-hmm.
And he would no longer have a place. You know, if all of a sudden everyone just poof and we're magically safe. Let's say everyone learned how to operate a hammer and a
nail gun.
I would no longer have a job because I'm a handyman and I wouldn't be, you know, going around doing these projects for people. And that's where we're at.
I think you're overestimating, Jared. You can never be safe enough, and there's always work to be done.
That's why we have OSHA.
Christ, dude, licking the boot, licking the safety boot.
OSHA has made construction a lot slower and it's a pain in the ass. I mean, I was doing iron work pre-OSHA where you would go to work in the morning and hook up the first I-beam that was going up on the crane, and you'd stand on the I-beam hanging on the cable and ride it up. You can't do that anymore. Oh God, they would have a cow. I mean, yeah, you just got to more government. We know what's good for you.
We're here to help.
Yep.
Here to rescue. Well, let's take a few minutes and go through this Soldier of Fortune. I haven't seen Soldier of Fortune magazine in many years.
Is that by Heath Hansen?
Let's go to it. Yes. Heath
He's
Hansen.
Good guy. He's another 82nd Airborne.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
He's probably the biggest paratrooper I've ever seen. He's like 6'6".
Bumped his head on the way out of the bird.
Yeah, on the way out. Yep.
Actually, you know, some of the jumps he might have just stepped out.
Been on the ground already.
Yeah, tiptoe, but you know.
Yeah.
All right. So tell us about this. How did this happen? How did you get lined up to where you were, you know, had a run in the Soldier of Fortune?
Well, like I say, our organization is all volunteer, so anybody can put in an app, and he reached out to us, and being 82nd Airborne, I had a, you know, soft spot for him, and he came out, and he knew his shit, and he said, "Hey, I hope you don't mind. I want to write an article about you guys and get what you do out there to people." I said, "Sure." I think he's 2 or 3 articles he has now with us out there, and he's coming out again the end of next month to do another one. He does pretty good writing too. I mean,
yeah, I'm reading through it. He does. It's clear writing. When someone applies to join your group, what kind of background checks do you do?
The process is you have to fill out basically a job application with all your info on it, except for your Social Security. We don't give a shit about your Social Security. And then we will look at it and see if you have any experience in military law enforcement, or do you speak any other languages, things like that. And then one of my guys will make a phone call and talk to you and ask, how did you hear about us? What do you think we do versus what we do? And if they're okay with that, then they push them through to the background check, which does 50 state criminal, 50 state sexual predator, and government watch list. Mm-hmm. If you pass that, then you have to print out our rules of engagement and standard operating procedures and have those notarized, saying that basically it's when you notarize our rules of engagement and standard operating procedures, basically notarizing it makes it good in a court of law, saying, no, that's your signature. You understood how they worked. Because regardless if you fill out an application, you pass a background check, and you sign a piece of paper, does not mean that you don't have ulterior motives. And I've spent too much of my time to sit there and sit in the 6x8 cell for the rest of my life because of someone doing something stupid. So,
oh yeah. Well, even just to draw negative attention to the group.
Oh, and we get that every few years. Somebody does something stupid, even though they're not with us. They'll have posted a picture of being with us. Oh, see, there's Arizona Border Recon. Look at these. There was a guy out of California. He made it 3 days before I told him to hit the bricks, because when you come out with us your first time, I put you with my seasoned guys. Mm-hmm. And they listen and watch you, because everybody's a tough guy when the sun is shining. It gets dark out there, it's dark. And you don't know what the hell's out there. I mean, I've had guys, a twig snaps and they're spinning and pointing rifles, and it's like, what are you doing? Well, there's something out there. It's like, yeah, there's rabbits, there's deer, there's border patrol. You just can't point a gun at a noise. I mean, you're not fit for this. You're too wired too tight. I've asked more people to leave than has actually stayed, because I don't have a good feeling about them.
I definitely, I can imagine that. The last thing you want is a hothead out there that's gonna, as much as you don't want them to come across, the last thing you want is to have some just regular
like what they're trying to pin on the 76-year-old rancher over in Keno Springs.
That's a big one there. That's when you read anything coming out of the prosecutor's office or the mainstream media, they write it up as if he was out hunting people.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And then you read about some of the other stuff, and they were coming onto his property. And
well, you see, there was only one mention that the deceased had a radio.
Yeah.
A two-way radio.
Yeah.
The only people with two-way radios down there is cartel.
And see, that's the rough thing is I have a bad feeling that old timer's going to get hung for this.
Nah.
You think he's going to get off?
Recently, what is it? Wednesday, they went from a cash $1 million bond to a surety bond. Uh-huh. So basically, he signed over his ranch and everything else,
which is probably worth more than $2 million.
What's that?
It's probably worth more than $2 million.
Yeah, but at least he's out for now.
What county is he getting tried in?
Santa Cruz County. They have a liberal sheriff down there, and the judge is liberal.
And probably the DA.
They added 2 more charges to him, but in the beginning, they charged him with first-degree premeditated murder. They've now dropped it to second degree because their case is getting weaker and weaker.
Yeah, that's what I called out. If they're charging him first degree, they're doing it because they want to overcharge to make, say, the state prosecutor happy, and they'll overcharge and he'll walk, or they're just activists. The problem is if you've got a progressive sheriff, I mean, how unheard of is that? Progressive sheriffs only show up in areas that are full of dog shit progressives.
Well, the county I'm in, we have a liberal sheriff also.
Really?
Yeah, the deputies, they don't like them. You know, they come and talk to me all the time to see what's going on.
How did he get elected there? Is your county a liberal county?
Well, Tucson is the hub of the county, and Tucson.
See, there you go. But that's
liberal.
where they'll draw the jury from.
Yeah.
And
well,
that's my concern.
But
that's whole time.
We're in Pima County. He was in Santa Cruz County. So the head of Santa Cruz County is Nogales. See, the interesting thing is that I read today that witnesses have come forward that were there. Now, this witness says he was there, and when he heard the gunshots, they started running and they ran back into Mexico. Now, these people who are in Mexico are now back in the United States to testify under government protection. And so they're going to lie just so they can get some immigration sweetheart deal.
Well, not just that, but pulling a guy off of his ranch that is an access point. They pull him off. They've got a freeway through. Yep. And
well, that's what they did. Remember, what was it? 2 years ago in Mexico, they the group that were former Latter-day Saints down there, and they killed the women and the children.
Yeah.
That's because the men were fighting back against the cartel, but the men went to town to go get supplies, and that's when the cartel came in and wiped out the babies and the women. And that's when the guys go, all right, screw it, we're gone.
Yeah.
Because they want that. They want that territory.
Mitt Romney's cousin.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, probably same grandfather, but different grandmother. Well, just throw that out there. But anyways, no, it was his relatives.
Yep.
I like how they got around Mexico's gun laws. In Mexico, you can own a gun.
Right.
But it has to be stored and kept at a shooting range.
Well,
so the Mormon group,
if it's a hunting rifle, you can keep
it. You can keep it in Mexico?
Bolt action.
Okay. But so what they did is they built a shooting range in the center of their community, and it was just a damn armory.
Yeah. Because there's only one gun store in Mexico, and that's in Mexico City, and it's run by the Mexican military.
Oh, wait, there's other gun stores in Mexico. They're across the border in Arizona, New Mexico, and Texas.
Yeah, Phoenix and Tucson.
Not in California.
No.
But in Arizona, New Mexico,
no, that's because
Texas.
Cartel don't want 10-round magazines with a bullet button.
Hey, Tim, has anyone reached out to the wife of this rancher to give her support to make sure she's okay?
Well, he's home now, and there was all kinds of people as soon as it happened that were there. I mean, just like them, they were banned from GoFundMe.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I've been banned by GoFundMe. The only donation platform that'll allow me on it anymore. I mean, I've been booted from PayPal, from everybody. It is just like them. Give, send, go.
Yeah. And that's Give, Send, Go is the only way I'd go.
Yeah.
They're the only ones that, I mean, look at what they did during the trucker in Canada, which was insane. They turned over everything to the government.
Yeah, I mean, and the government told Give, Send, Go, you can't give them money. And they're going,
yeah, Give, Send, Go said
we don't know. Money too?
Yeah. What the Canadian... Castro's kid is he's a bumbling fool, but man, he's a hell of a dictator.
Yeah. Hey, but he's got some nice ethnic costume that he wears around the planet.
You talking about his blackface?
Or when he went to India, he dressed his whole family in India garb.
Yeah,
and they got off the plane and they're all looking at him like, The fuck are you doing?
He is. I mean,
Hey, they keep voting him in, so I mean, what can you say?
you know what? I don't know. Is there hope for Canada?
Is there hope for us?
You know,
I mean,
that's a good point. Like I say, guard the border, but keep an avenue open because we may have to go that way.
Oh yeah. Well, I got a clear shot.
Yeah, we may have
Got to come through Arivaca.
Yeah.
so when it comes to being on the border as a private citizen, are we allowed to own land right up to the border, or is there a federal zone?
Well, you see, the difference between Arizona and Texas, say, 85% of Arizona is federal land,
Yeah, just like
where
Utah.
85% of Texas is private land. So it makes harder to do anything in Texas. I've been asked, you want to go to Texas? And it's like, I've already read up on the laws there that if your name's not on that address or you don't have a contract saying that you're providing security for those people, then nope. Whereas us, we're in 2.5 million acre national forest.
Mm-hmm.
They can't stop us. It's public land.
When you say they, like, are the ranchers in Texas not
No,
allowing?
they as in the government.
Well, not to mention, let me just throw this out there. Let's say you have a handshake deal with the rancher to watch the border on his land. And while you're on that border, you kill someone. That rancher's going to turn around just like those car dealership guys that Rittenhouse was watching the dealership for and go, I don't know this guy.
Yep.
So not only do you get popped for murder, you get popped for trespass while you murder. And that's a different. You come out west, Richard Nixon, when he took us off the international gold standard, he had to have something to sell the world to tide him over. So he nationalized all the land in Utah, Arizona, Nevada, New Mexico, Idaho, most of Montana.
Anything west of the Mississippi.
West of the Rocky, well, up to the Rockies and west. And he did that because he had to have land to use as leverage so that people didn't run away from the dollar. And then while that was in place, then he got his guys working around the world and set up the petrodollar. But that's why all the land out here is federal. None of it's even state property. It's all federal.
Well, they got to sell us into slavery somehow.
Sell us? Past tense. Sold us. They've got to have sold us into slavery. Yeah. But, well, Tim, this has been a great chat. Man, if my brother was still down in Huachuca and I go down to visit, I'd swing down over there and see where you're working at.
Well, anytime you're in the neighborhood, just give a jingle.
Yeah, I may have to swing down there.
If you want to see some of what we see, go on our YouTube channel, Arizona Border Recon, and I put some stuff up there, but I don't put a lot of everything up there because they're watching also.
Yeah,
both the government and the cartel.
Yeah, so that's true. You don't want to. I mean, the government will just screw it up if they try to do anything. You don't.
Well, and it's like I'll put stuff up. Sometimes if it's really good, I'll put it up months later. And the first comment out of people's mouths are, "Well, dude, that's old." It's like, well, it's called OPSEC.
Yeah.
Operational security. I'm not going to put it up there. Oh, look what happened today.
If we want to control our border, we have to petition the government, Republican or Democrat, to have open borders and get the government to where the government screams open borders and will never have another person cross because the government will fuck up anything they touch.
That's sarcasm, Tim.
Yeah.
Is it? Where's the government success?
Well, you know,
where's their success?
When I first got here, the vast majority of our area was just a 4-strand barbed wire fence. And I was going, no way in hell will they ever do it. And then when Trump got in, but they dogged him for so long that it took him so long to start in on it down here. We got 17 miles of fence. Mm-hmm. But in that 17 miles, there's about 20 freaking holes in it,
Mm.
that were never finished.
Yep.
And and then at the end of the fence, which is where we go, there's a 15-mile gap of nothing.
Yep.
And because you got the environmentalists that come out, oh my God, the three-toed salamander or some damn thing is, it's his habitat and it's going to take 100 years to come back. It's like, I have the perfect solution. I just think we ought to plant 100-yard wide patch along the whole border of
Landmines.
It's called cholla. It's also, its nickname is jumping cactus.
Yeah.
It is the most brutal freaking plant out here. I've chased scouts before they hit 100-yard patch of that stuff and they were going through it. And I see it, you win. I ain't going through that shit.
Well, honestly, here's the answer you do is, this is just my thoughts. Step one, we stop the drug war. We've got to stop incentivizing them to bring drugs across. Step two, instant death penalty for sex crimes, shit like that. Just if you're involved in sex trafficking, we smoke you in the street and send your family a letter to come pick your happy ass up. And step three, we don't offer any welfare to anyone here illegally. You've got to have processed paperwork if you want to get on a housing list, on a medical list, any of that. And you do that, one, it saves us money, and two, but those are the three things that come across. You get people who want to come across to migrant work. I actually kind of support that. I say the legal way to do it.
When Reagan first did the first amnesty, do you know who was the most vehemently opposed to it?
Hugo Chavez?
Cesar Chavez.
Yeah, Cesar Chavez. That's his name.
Not Hugo.
Yeah. Cesar Chavez didn't want it because he
didn't want illegal immigration.
He wanted legal immigration. He wanted controlled. Cesar Chavez used to go around and beat the shit out of illegals.
Oh yeah, he'd send 300 guys to the border and fucking pound them back over.
If he saw illegals crossing the border, they would wait and beat them up, hospitalize people.
Yeah. See, a lot of people, but they don't teach you that in history class. Let's just name a street after him because he was a Mexican-American advocate for. It's like, but you just spun it.
And I would set it up like this. If you want to come to this country as a migrant worker, one, you stay in Mexico and you find the job. And then you write the job, you apply for the job. That job hires you and takes a limited liability over you, over ensuring you're housed and taken care of and you have a job. And then you come across and you work for that job. And then from there, you can apply for citizenship.
Yeah.
You can
we also need to get rid of birthright citizenship. Do you know how many countries on the planet have that?
A lot of my wife's friends that are really wealthy. My wife's from Brazil, by the way. And like she knows people who literally just come to America to birth their baby to get that citizenship.
Yep. There's only 6 countries that do that. Mm. See, and that's because they spin it. And in the Bill of Rights, it's like the 10th Amendment. Is it 10th or the 14th? I can't remember. But it was put in there for the slaves. It said, unless you have an allegiance to a foreign government, then regardless if you give birth, it's not a citizen. See, they did that so that the ambassadors and shit way back then couldn't come over and birth the kid and go, okay, we're staying here. Mm-hmm. We're not leaving. But they've spun it and said, no, let's wipe that last piece out. So if you're coming over here illegally and you're a Mexican citizen or Honduran or wherever you're from, you still have an allegiance to that country because you didn't go through the process of legal immigration. And it's a bitch. I've done it before for my ex-wife. She's from Canada, and what a freaking nightmare that was. But if you want something bad enough, I don't know, did you go through the citizenship program?
I explored every avenue. So I know how much they're on the take for too back then.
Yeah. It's brutal. I mean, the security guards out in front of the INS building knew me after about 3 visits because they're going, dude, you going to be maintaining calm today? I said, yeah, if they can understand goddamn English going across the damn counter.
Well,
I go there one time and they go, what are you here for? I'm here to get her a green card. Okay, here, fill this out and come back in 3 weeks. I come back in 3 weeks. I go, what the hell's that? That's going, they told me to fill this out to get her a green card. No. You need to fill this out. Come back in 3 weeks.
At least you didn't have to fly to Rio.
well, we do need to make our process for people becoming migrants easier. We need to make our process for people. I think becoming a citizen, I think that should be a hard test,
Well, we allow 1 million people a year to immigrate here legally. And plus there's 2 million work visas. And I mean,
I don't even want quotas on this. I want it if you in Mexico or in El Salvador or in Honduras or in wherever can find a place that wants to hire you and take that limited responsibility for you, then come on.
Especially if you're willing to pay taxes. I mean,
yeah, I don't want an up or low limit. I don't want any of that. I want to have a sponsored system, and that's it. So you might have a guy in California that'll sponsor guys to come pick fruit down in Southern California for 6 months a year. I'm just hiring you guys for 6 months. And those guys can voluntarily say, yes, I want to come work there for 6 months. I'm going to make more than I'll make down here in that 6 months, more than I'd make in 2 years in Mexico. I'm going to do that. And, and that's fine. Have a system.
That's what the dope mules do.
Yeah. And we've got to stop.
They get paid handsomely to run a load of drugs up to Tucson, and they turn around and go home and live like a king and then do it again.
Yeah, we have to stop at least the way we're fighting or the way we're prosecuting the war on drugs, because it is an abstract failure. It is horrendous.
See, that's because there's so much money to be made in the prison system.
Well, there's that.
Why are we not opening up drug rehab centers and just filling those up?
Yes.
Look at San Francisco.
Yeah.
They just bought up a bunch of old buildings and they're turning them into city legalized shooting galleries.
But they're not doing the rehab part. And the next thing you've got to do, this is the most important of ending the war on drugs, is your dealer of fentanyl or heroin or whatever should be the same dealer that gives you your Viagra. And it should be that pharmacist.
You're under the impression, see, they want this to happen because these people who are dope fiends, that's one part of society they don't have to worry about. The only thing those people are worried about is going out and getting their next high. They don't have to worry about them voting. They don't have to worry about them anything. I mean, this is all part of the game plan.
You're 100% right on that. Well, and also the dope fiends for both parties give someone they can talk about when they're running. So the Republicans can come out and say, look at these people. We've got to figure out how to make them better. And the Democrats can come out and say, look at these people. We got to figure out how to give them free housing and, wipe their ass after they shit. And that is exactly because they are just like everyone else, just like that. This is going to sound rough, but right now, I mean, if you're African-American, you're just someone for both parties to speak about in the abstract.
Yeah. Well, with the epidemic of drugs that's going on and the amount of people dying from overdoses, it's about 117,000 a year now. Mm-hmm. But last year, Congress, because they wanted to show they were doing something and earning their money and why you voted for them, they made May 17th Fentanyl Awareness Day.
Ooh. I feel safer already.
I mean, that's what we're paying for.
Yep.
The system
when
is
they
broken.
extract it from you by force, you can at least say, it's not like you had a choice.
Yeah. How about Biden after that train wreck that's going to be causing cancer down the road, goes over to Ukraine and drops them off a cool,
On President's Day.
$50 million
I thought it was 500.
On President's
or
Day.
500 million or whatever,
Yep. And that was on George Washington's birthday.
Yeah. And then, so Russia's pissed. So now Russia jumps out of the START agreement, which was the latest non-proliferation treaty. So, and now Russia has people high in their government that are calling for nuclear first strikes. And Russia, unlike us, does not have a no first strike, what would you call it? No first strike rule in their government.
We have a no first strike rule?
Yes, we do.
Well, see,
that's stupid.
So
with Ukraine, what people don't know is the area of, what's it, Donetsk?
Donetsk.
Dobrinsk, the furthest
and
east.
Something like that.
But 2 weeks before Russia going in there, the Ukrainians were shelling the shit out of the place because they were ethnic Russians.
They were shelling it for 8 years. 8 years they were shelling the Donetsk.
And all the way back in from 2005, Putin's been telling them, quit expanding NATO eastward. And if you look at a map in 2005 to now, they're surrounded.
Yep. Yeah.
And when he went in,
I've been preaching that from the word go, that this has been, I still think that the Ukraine is a planned operation by NATO to make Russia the permanent enemy, so we can keep up with this militaristic state, and they can rob us blind as we fall, as we.
Oh yeah. And what did they say? They just went and told Ukraine, dude, you got to calm down on the artillery shells.
Yeah.
They were shooting 90,000 155 millimeter shells a month. What in the hell is still standing after a year of 90,000? That's a million freaking shells.
But remember, they were shooting those shells into other Ukrainian cities.
Yeah, this is true. But still, there should be nothing left.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a joke.
Our media tells us, Russia bad, Ukraine good. It's not like Zelensky didn't get in there and outlaw the Russian language, which made his military deplete by 3/4. So then he turned to the
Azov
Nazi light party in the West and hired them on first as a National Guard and then establishment into the full military, because his military forces were depleted. And then when they got introduced into the Donetsk in 2016, they really amped up the shelling and war crimes, which on the other side of the world, if you listen to the news, Russia invaded the Ukraine because of that.
Oh yeah. Well, I would have done the same damn thing too. It's right on his border, and it's his people.
Yeah.
But they call it television for a reason.
Television.
Telling you a vision of what they want you to know.
Yep. They are programming us.
That's why it's called a TV program.
Yep. I wonder if we can spend money so half-assed, just without abandon, right? Why are we even taxed anymore? Why do I have to go kneel and fellatio a government official once a year just to say, yes, I earned some of your money this year, and you better make sure that I.
What's sad? I worked, 4+ decades, and then I get Social Security, and they want to tax me on it.
Yeah, or property tax. Yeah. Yeah. Failed
I'm on a
state.
44-year-old mobile home, and they still taxing this thing.
Uh-huh. Oh, yeah.
How are the taxes in Arizona?
Not bad. I mean, let's see, driver's license, 24 years for $25.
Now that is Arizona's has an awesome driver's license program.
And then my trucks, they're all registered for 4 years, and it ran me $55.
Jesus.
For each truck or?
Yeah.
Okay.
$55 for 4 years.
Wow.
Yeah. Here in Utah,
it's cheaper if you buy it more and more years, though.
I wish Utah offered that.
I got to pay $200 a year no matter what for each vehicle. It seems like.
Well,
you're lucky.
Not in about 6 more years, because then you drop to where you don't have to anymore. It doesn't cost as much.
California is now going to base it not upon how old your vehicle is; it's how much it weighs. If you got a pickup truck in California, you're looking at anywhere from $800 to $1,200 a year.
Well, those electric batteries are not. They're not like these fragile, light as a feather equipment.
No, the electric trucks weigh double what a gas pickup truck weighs. No, it's yeah. I wouldn't, and it's a crying shame. California is the Garden of Eden. It's the prettiest overall place on planet Earth.
They've got dealt in every ace in the deck when it comes to resources and land.
They just are on a race to see how
driving into
fast,
the ground.
Yeah. How fast can we collapse the 5th economy in the world?
I mean, I was born and raised there, and I got out in 2001. See ya.
Yeah. All right, Tim. Thanks for coming on, man.
Let's plug your 501c3 one more time and your webpage, please.
And your YouTube channel.
Hey, Arizona Border Recon.org is the border outfit. You can also find us on YouTube, Arizona Border Recon, or on Mark Zuckerberg's Facebook, Arizona Border Recon. The veterans organization we started is called Arizona Veterans Retreat. That's ArizonaVeteransRetreat.org. You can see what we're planning for the place, some of the work we've done. I just finished some last week. I'm going to get the video up. And then if you people want to help, it's my name, Tim Foley, at GiveSendGo.com. Our biggest expense now is fuel. I mean, I've bought everything else. I've spent over $200,000 of my own money. I cashed out 2 pensions when 08 collapsed, and bought radios and everything you can think of, laptops, radios, everything. And but I can't get into everything that we have.
Yeah.
Because I'm sick.
Yeah.
But anytime you want an update, feel free to give a jingle.
Yeah, for sure. And if anything new comes up, and you want to get on the horn, just let us know.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Thank you, Tim.
Everyone's Tim Foley. Thanks for joining us. And
thank you for having me.
Yes, sir. We will we'll see you next week.